What happens when the dreamers who built an empire step back? Who steers the ship when the original architects are gone? And what does that moment mean, not just for one of the most powerful companies on Earth, but for all of us navigating a world where technology moves faster than regulation, where ethics struggle to keep pace with innovation, and where every decision ripples across billions of lives? Picture this: a quiet dorm room at Stanford University. Two brilliant young minds, Larry Page and Sergey Brin, hunched over laptops, scribbling equations, arguing late into the night about ideas most people wouldn't understand, let alone believe in.
I'm Larry Page. I'm co-founder and CEO of Google.
I'm Sergey Brin. I'm from Google, and prior to that, I was a PhD student at Stanford.
They weren't just dreaming of success. They were building something bigger than themselves. Something that would one day touch nearly every corner of modern life.
Benefits of really having pure research. So we had no idea what we wanted to do.
In my mind, kind of resonates with a different kind of energy and dynamic that Stanford has.
Fast forward 2 decades, and that spark has become a global force. Google, then Alphabet. A company that doesn't just search the web. It searches for cures, for answers, for the very future of humanity. From self-driving cars to quantum computing, from AI breakthroughs to satellite internet, Alphabet is no longer just a tech company. It's a cultural force, a geopolitical player, a pioneer shaping the next frontier of human progress. In 2019, without fanfare or farewell tours, Page and Brin officially stepped down from their executive roles. No grand speeches, no dramatic exits, just a quiet handoff. But beneath the surface, a seismic shift had occurred, one that would define not only the future of Alphabet, but the trajectory of innovation itself. Because in a world where artificial intelligence can write poetry, diagnose diseases, and even influence elections, leadership matters more than ever. The story of Google isn't just about code or algorithms. It's about vision, values, and the people brave enough to shape the future. So, who will lead Alphabet now? How do you carry forward the audacity of its founders while navigating the ethical complexities of AI, privacy, and global influence? And perhaps most importantly, what can we learn from this moment of transformation? Because the lessons here aren't just for Silicon Valley titans. They're for every leader, innovator, and change maker facing the relentless pace of change. Today, we dive deep into the forces driving Google's evolution. We'll explore the enduring legacy of its founders, the challenges facing its new stewards, and the ethical frontiers ahead. Drawing from history, philosophy, and the lived experiences of those who've led at the highest levels, we'll uncover timeless truths about innovation, responsibility, and the art of leading when the stakes are nothing short of historic. Your journey begins now. Let's step inside the mind of a company that changed the world. The story of Google begins not in a boardroom or a Silicon Valley campus, but in a Stanford dorm room, where two brilliant, restless minds, Larry Page and Sergey Brin, were already asking questions no one else dared to ask. Not just how to build a better search engine, but why it mattered. Their vision wasn't about making money. It was about organizing the world's information and making it universally accessible and useful. That was the spark. And from it, everything else followed. As Stephen Levy writes in the Plex, Google was never just a company. It was a crusade. A crusade powered by what many now call the moonshot mentality. The belief that if something seems impossible, that's exactly why you should try it. Self-driving cars, artificial intelligence before it was cool, quantum computing experiments hidden inside secret labs. These weren't side projects. They were declarations of intent. And yet, for all their brilliance, Page and Brin didn't just leave behind code or algorithms. They left behind culture, one defined by audacity, experimentation, and a refusal to accept limits. They gave employees 20% time to work on passion projects. They invested billions in AI research long before anyone knew what GPT stood for. They restructured the entire company into Alphabet so moonshots could grow outside the gravitational pull of the core business. Even as they stepped away from daily operations, their fingerprints remained all over the organization. This kind of visionary leadership isn't accidental. It's intentional. Like Plato's philosopher king, Page and Brin saw themselves not just as CEOs, but as architects of a future shaped by technology. Machiavelli might have warned them about the dangers of too much idealism, but they understood something deeper, that great organizations are built not just on profit, but on purpose. As Ralph Waldo Emerson once wrote, "The eye is the first circle. The horizon which it forms is the second, and throughout nature, this primary figure is repeated without end." So too with Google. A vision that kept expanding, always chasing the next horizon. Sun Tzu, the ancient Chinese strategist, said, "Strategy without tactics is the slowest route to victory. Tactics without strategy is the noise before defeat." Page and Brin had both. They had the grand vision and the tactical patience to execute it. They weren't afraid to fail because they knew failure was just part of the process. As Larry Page himself once said, "We are trying to build the kind of company where we would want to work. We are trying to do things that really matter." Even their famous mantra, "Don't be evil," though later revised, was more than a slogan. It was a cultural compass, a reminder that innovation without ethics can become dangerous. Abraham Lincoln once said, "The best way to predict the future is to create it." And that's exactly what Google did, again and again. But here's the challenge. How do you keep that spirit alive when the founders move on? How do you maintain the audacity, the hunger, the willingness to bet big on ideas that seem absurd today, but might define tomorrow? That brings us to the next chapter. The rise of new stewards and the daunting task of leading a company that doesn't just respond to change, it creates it. When Larry Page and Sergey Brin stepped back from day-to-day operations at Alphabet, they didn't just hand over a company, they handed over a global institution. One that touches billions of lives, shapes economies, fuels innovation, and stands at the crossroads of technology, ethics, and geopolitics. That's not a transition. It's a transformation. And the person now steering this ship is Sundar Pichai, a leader who must balance the founder's audacity with the realities of running one of the most complex organizations on Earth. Pichai didn't arrive at Google by accident. He came through the ranks not as a visionary in the mold of Page or Brin, but as an engineer, a strategist, a builder. His rise reflects a shift from founder-led innovation to professional stewardship. It's a move seen across tech. Satya Nadella at Microsoft, Tim Cook at Apple, Shantanu Narayan at Adobe. These are leaders who inherit bold visions and must translate them into sustainable realities. And it's no small task. As The Economist noted, while Page and Brin retain significant voting power, their absence from daily decision-making means the buck now stops with Pichai and his leadership team. They're no longer building from scratch. They're managing at scale, where every decision ripples outward, touching markets, governments, and millions of users worldwide. Imagine leading a company where you're simultaneously developing cutting-edge AI models, facing antitrust lawsuits in Europe and the US, navigating geopolitical tensions in China and India, addressing employee activism around AI ethics, and maintaining dominance in search, Android, YouTube, and cloud computing, all while investing in moonshots like quantum computing and life sciences. This isn't just leadership, this is orchestration. Max Weber once warned about the tension between bureaucracy and innovation. Large companies tend to slow down as they grow, not because they lack talent, but because they accumulate layers, processes, and risk aversion. Google under Pichai faces that very challenge. How to maintain velocity without losing vision. Reed Hastings, co-founder of Netflix, explored this dilemma in No Rules Rules, where he argued that culture, not control, is what allows companies to stay nimble at scale. Google, too, has long prided itself on a culture of freedom and experimentation. But as the stakes rise, especially in AI, privacy, and regulation, that culture must evolve. It must be guided by structure, accountability, and clarity. This is where Peter Drucker's famous distinction becomes essential. Management is doing things right. Leadership is doing the right things. Pichai isn't just managing a company. He's leading a global force into uncharted waters. And leadership, especially in times of transition, demands more than competence. It demands courage. Heraclitus said, "Change is the only constant." And for Google today, change is everywhere. From AI-generated misinformation to data privacy laws reshaping how products are built. From internal debates over ethical AI to external pressures from governments demanding transparency and oversight. The modern tech CEO is no longer just a technologist or a businessman. They are diplomats, ethicists, and sometimes even cultural warriors. As Angela Merkel, former German Chancellor, once observed, "We live in a time of rapid change, and we have to adapt to it." That's the reality for Google's new stewards. They must navigate a world where innovation moves faster than regulation, where public trust is fragile, and where the consequences of failure aren't just financial, they're societal. Dwight D. Eisenhower, a master of strategic leadership, once said, "Leadership is the art of getting someone else to do something you want done because he wants to do it." In a company as vast and decentralized as Alphabet, that kind of leadership is critical. You can't command innovation, you have to inspire it. So how does Google keep its spark alive? How does it honor the founder's legacy while forging a new identity under professional leadership? It starts with culture, it continues with clarity, and it thrives through conviction. Because the future doesn't wait for permission. It rewards those who lead with purpose, act with foresight, and build with integrity. And that brings us to the next frontier. One defined not just by code or algorithms, but by ethics, responsibility, and humanity's digital destiny. Imagine a world where machines can write poetry, diagnose diseases with near-perfect accuracy, and even create new forms of art indistinguishable from human work. This isn't science fiction. It's happening right now, inside Google and companies like it. And at the center of this transformation stands artificial intelligence, a force so powerful that it could redefine what it means to be human. As Sundar Pichai once said, AI is one of the most profound technologies humanity is working on. More profound than fire or electricity. That might sound dramatic, but consider this. AI isn't just another tool. It's a mirror, reflecting our values, our biases, our hopes, and our fears. And for Google, now under new stewardship, leading in AI means more than building smarter algorithms. It means shaping the ethical framework of an entire era. Because the future of technology isn't just about code, it's about consequence. Google has long been at the forefront of AI innovation, from DeepMind's breakthroughs in machine learning to the development of large language models like BERT and Gemini. But with each leap forward comes a deeper responsibility. How do we ensure that AI serves all of humanity, not just the privileged few? How do we prevent misuse when these systems become embedded in everything from healthcare to national defense? And how do we balance innovation with regulation in a world where laws struggle to keep pace with progress? These are not just technical questions, they're moral ones. The company's internal debates over projects like Project Maven, a Pentagon contract involving AI-assisted drone analysis, and its evolving stance on facial recognition technologies reveal the complexity of navigating ethics in real time. In 2018, thousands of Google employees signed a letter demanding the company abandon the military contract, highlighting the growing influence of employee activism in tech. As Yuval Noah Harari writes in Homo Deus, technology is never neutral. It always pushes society in certain directions and away from others. Google's leadership must now decide which direction they want to pull. That's why Google's role in initiatives like the Partnership on AI and its own AI principles, released in 2018, matter so much. They represent a conscious effort to align innovation with ethics. But principles alone aren't enough. Implementation is everything. And yet, the pressure to move fast is immense. In a global race for AI dominance between the US, China, and other emerging players, ethical considerations often feel like speed bumps rather than guardrails. Ursula von der Leyen, President of the European Commission, captured this tension perfectly when she said, "We need to make sure that AI is human-centric, trustworthy, and ethical." Europe's sweeping AI Act attempts to do just that, imposing strict regulations on high-risk applications. Meanwhile, the US remains more permissive, prioritizing innovation over control. For Google, this geopolitical chessboard adds yet another layer of complexity. Will it continue to operate under American norms, or will it adapt to stricter European standards? Can it maintain consistency across borders while preserving its core mission? These aren't just legal dilemmas. They're existential choices about who Google wants to be in the age of AI. But perhaps the greatest challenge lies ahead, ensuring that as AI becomes more capable, it doesn't become more opaque. Transparency, accountability, and explainability are no longer optional features. They are essential components of responsible AI. Isaac Asimov's fictional 3 Laws of Robotics may seem quaint, but they were rooted in a fundamental truth. Powerful systems require built-in safeguards. So what does this mean for the future of Google and for us? It means that leadership today isn't just about building better products. It's about asking better questions. It means fostering interdisciplinary collaboration between engineers, ethicists, sociologists, and policymakers. It means embracing humility in the face of uncertainty and recognizing that the power to shape the future also carries the burden of responsibility. Stephen Hawking once warned, "The development of full artificial intelligence could spell the end of the human race." That warning was not meant to scare, but to awaken, to remind us that every great technological leap demands equal leaps in wisdom. And, as Barack Obama once said, the future rewards those who press on. Press on, Google must, because the digital destiny of humanity is being written today, in boardrooms, in labs, in classrooms, and in conversations like this one. The question isn't whether AI will change the world. It's who gets to decide how. You don't need to run a tech giant or lead a moonshot project to be a leader in this new era. The story of Google's evolution, from its founding visionaries to its next generation of stewards, offers powerful lessons not just for Silicon Valley, but for every one of us navigating a world where change is the only constant. Because leadership isn't about titles, it's about mindset, about choosing curiosity over complacency, courage over comfort, and responsibility over convenience. And whether you're leading a team, a business, or simply your own path forward, the principles that have guided Google through transformation can guide you too. Let's start with something simple, yet profound: lifelong learning. In a world where AI can write code overnight and algorithms evolve faster than textbooks, standing still means falling behind. Sundar Pichai once said, "AI is more profound than fire or electricity." But it's not just about understanding AI. It's about cultivating the ability to learn, unlearn, and relearn constantly. And curiosity leads naturally to another essential trait: ethical awareness. As Yuval Noah Harari reminds us in Homo Deus, technology doesn't operate in a moral vacuum. Every decision, whether it's how you handle data, how you treat colleagues, or how you engage with users, carries weight. You don't need to be building sentient machines to understand this. Even small choices shape the kind of leader you become. Then there's the long game. Thinking long-term isn't just for CEOs or founders. It's for anyone who wants to build something that lasts. Larry Page and Sergey Brin didn't create Alphabet to win quarters. They created it to win decades. They invested in quantum computing when most people couldn't even explain what it was. They backed self-driving cars before anyone trusted them. And they believed in moonshots because they understood that the future belongs to those willing to imagine it first. As Abraham Lincoln wisely said, "The best way to predict the future is to create it." So ask yourself, what legacy do you want to leave? Not just in your career, but in the lives you touch along the way. For businesses and teams, these ideas translate into action through core principles, future-proofing, and a culture of responsibility. Every great organization has a North Star, a reason for being that transcends products and profits. Google had "Don't be evil." Apple had "Think different." Your business might be smaller, but your values can be just as bold. Define them clearly. Communicate them constantly. Let them guide decisions, especially the hard ones. Future-proofing means investing not just in what works today, but in what will matter tomorrow. Microsoft, under Satya Nadella, offers a powerful example. He didn't just tweak the existing strategy. He redefined the company's identity around cloud computing and AI, betting big on where the world was going, not where it had been. That kind of foresight requires both humility and courage. It means letting go of what no longer serves you while planting seeds for what does. And then there's culture, the invisible force that determines whether organizations thrive or stagnate. Google learned this firsthand when thousands of employees protested Project Maven. That wasn't just a PR challenge, it was a wake-up call, a reminder that innovation without inclusion, without ethics, without listening to the people inside your walls, is unsustainable. So what can you do, starting today? Start by reading widely. Not just within your field, but beyond it. Read history, philosophy, science, fiction. Because the most creative solutions often come from unexpected places. Seek out diverse perspectives. Challenge your assumptions. Practice critical thinking, especially when it comes to the tools and technologies shaping our lives. And above all, lead with integrity and foresight. Because the future isn't waiting. It's being built by leaders who are willing to adapt, to question, to dream, and to act. And that brings us to the final chapter, the unwritten chapters ahead. Not just for Google, but for all of us. The story of Google is more than the tale of a tech giant. It's a reflection of our evolving relationship with technology, innovation, and leadership itself. From the bold vision of Larry Page and Sergey Brin to the steady stewardship of Sundar Pichai, the company has shown that enduring success isn't built on products alone, but on principles, audacity, adaptability, and an unwavering commitment to shaping the future. As the world hurtles toward an AI-driven, hyper-connected era, the lessons from Google's journey are clearer than ever. Leadership matters, culture endures, and ethics must guide even the most ambitious innovations. But the most powerful insight of all? The future doesn't belong only to Silicon Valley or billionaire founders. It belongs to anyone willing to lead with curiosity, courage, and conviction. Whether you're building a product, leading a team, or simply navigating life in a rapidly changing world, the blueprint is there for you to follow. Because the next chapter of progress, of your progress, is still being written. And as history reminds us, it's not the loudest voice or the richest company that shapes the future. It's the one who dares to lead with purpose, with